Welcome to the Gen AI Africa podcast, where we decode the future, spotlight African innovations, and amplify your voices that are shaping Africa's digital future, especially on policy development. So, as you know, I'm your host, Bongekile Filana, and of course, explorers, I'm not alone. Yes, I'm with Tulani. I said last time a host with the most. And Tulani, I'm with Tulani, of course, and we are joined by a very special guest. You know that now. This week in South Africa, we are focusing on G20. So at the Gen AI Africa podcast, we said, okay, let's also have a G20 Peace edition, so that because we are hoping that issues around peace are going to take are going to be at the top of the discussions at the G20. As I said that this week marks really is very important because South Africa and Africa will be hosting the G20, a good opportunity for South Africa and also the continent to actually be positioned as a key role players in terms of international policies on social justice, sustainable development goals, and economic equality. So, and we're also hoping that the issues that discussions will also prioritize the issue of peace. You know that in Africa, we've been having issues there was a Gen Z unrest in Madagascar, and also currently there are protests in Tanzania after post-election protest. So, and also we continue even in this podcast to talk about Syria because we can't be silent until there's peace in every corner in our continent. And we'll also continue to also monitor what is happening in Congo or in the Eastern DRC. So yes, today we are joined by a very special person, Chelsea Cohen, who's recently been appointed to be the co-chair of the wiseYouth network that is focusing on conflict prevention and also mobilizing young people to be in the space of or also participate as active participants of peace building efforts. So let me help me to welcome Chelsea Cohen in this platform. Hi.
Thank you so much for that warm welcome. I feel like every time I hear the words co-chair, I'm like, oh yeah, that is me. That is me now. So yeah, so much for that warm welcome. I'm so happy to be here and also to really talk about peace. I think, as much as everything that's going on, I just feel like we need to continue talking about peace and getting more young people into peace. Yes. So I'm very happy.
Absolutely. Tulani, host with the most.
Yay. What up, explorers? This is Tulani, host with the most.
We're going to have to hear why you're the host with the most.
I don't know. If it sticks, it sticks. Hey, Chelsea. Anyway, thank you for joining us again, Chelsea. Really appreciate what you joining us today. So if you don't mind if you don't mind telling us, what do you do? What is peace and all mean for the African continent?
Oh, that is such a big question.
Yes, and also I saw that you also guys focus on preventative diplomacy. If you can unpack your role as the co-chair of the wiseYouth network, at the African Union, is.
Okay.
I'll be so glad.
Okay, so the African Union wiseYouth network is the most recent network within the African Union, and it is a subsidiary mechanism for the Panel of the Wise. And I'm not too sure how much you know about the Panel of the Wise, but they are 5, people that sit on this panel that do advisory on conflict, prevention of conflict, mediation processes. And, so we work underneath that. We mimic that idea, but for young people. So it's one of the only institutionalized networks that are dealing with mediation, preventive diplomacy, and the promotion of peace and dealing with peace processes. And we encompass this 20 of us, and each coming from the 5 regions that make up the 20. And so it's 10 males, 10 females, and we all have very different backgrounds, different experiences, and we work together as a unit and offer advice, and we integrate, and we really do try and push for all these policies to open up spaces for young people to be part of the mediation processes, peace building processes, and just overall peace in general, because mediation is quite a political space, and so there's never really been young people. They've just managed to start getting women on board. So can you imagine young people?
Yeah, it's even worse.
The question is always, why do the young people need to be there? Are young people wise? And we beg to differ. Yes, we are wise, and we do need to be there because we are the future. We absolutely are. So that's just our network in a nutshell. We do go on missions with the African Union, and very different missions. So some people have gone on election observation. Some people have gone to for training purposes. Some people are doing peace processes. So it just depends. It's never, this is what you're set to do. It just depends on your background, your skills, and how you can support the overall mission.
Wow, amazing stuff. So I just want to understand if the work that you do is also aligned with the continental framework on youth, peace and security. I know that there's a continental framework because I've been also working closely with Southern Africa Ambassador for Youth, Peace and Security, Ms Mbule from Botswana. So I wanted to check if maybe you also part of that part of the people who are implementing the Youth, Peace and Security Continental Framework. I know that this year we are all celebrating the UN Security Council resolution of 2015 on youth, peace and security, which also speaks about 5 pillars, and also recognizing young people as active participants of peace building than seeing them as a victim, and also positioning them as active stakeholders and partners for peace building efforts. So I also aligned with the work that you do is also aligned with the continental framework and also that UN Security Council resolution of 2015.
Yeah, so both agendas are in alignment with the wiseYouth Network, and this is also because with young people, we always tend to focus more on young men, and then the young women are overshadowed. So we're kind of sitting in between the YPS and the WPS as young women. So we're trying to bridge that actually with them. Yeah, we're trying to bridge that as young women in peace processes, because, we don't only fit in the one agenda. You can see that we're in both. Yeah, I'm part of the youth now, but at some point I'm going to migrate over.
Exactly.
I am going to end up just under the WPS. So I have worked closely with Mpula as well. Brilliant lady. And just how we're trying to bridge that gap. It's I'm not going to lie, it's not an easy walk in the park, everyone. It's quite an uphill battle, just because, people aren't making enough space and for young people. So it's going to be nice to see. I feel like you can't see progress when you're going through it. I'm hoping in the next 10 years, we're going to see more young people in these spaces and more young women that are now covered by WPS in the way that it's not just being tokenistic, that we actively participating, we actively co-creating programs and initiatives, because for instance, my network, somebody else developed that. And then young people came to fill in that. But in the grand scheme of things, we should be creating these things together. You know what I mean? Like saying, what is something that works for young people, and then get the older generation to come up with an idea with us, and then it goes out, versus the other way, which is, well, this is a program for young people. We need now young people to fill in the gaps. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, I think what we are raising is very important, because we always underestimate the power of intergenerational efforts or intergenerational co-creation, creating a intergenerational co-creation space. So like now we live in the space of AI, of course. This is an AI Africa podcast. So I wanted to check, like, how can we make sure that our young people in the space of technology are now using that technologies or AI to actually innovate and also build a solution for peace. So how can we make sure that we mobilize many young people in South Africa or in Southern Africa, or in just in the continent, to work together using open source, of course, or other tools to build solutions for peace?
I think AI and just the tech space has transformed this entire planet. And Africa, there's parts of Africa that are getting involved in the tech space and AI, and there's parts of Africa that can't because of infrastructure.
Absolutely.
So, and I've seen it, because it sometimes creates an imbalance now, because then only a select few can participate in the tech movement and AI because they have access to it, and then other people are not getting the same opportunity. And it's not even to say that they don't have amazing ideas, So I think sometimes the people that do have access to these spaces and need to start involving other people that don't have access, because until we're able to get the infrastructure around that for everyone to be accessing it, there's going to be a divide, which on its own is problematic. But I feel like that would be another podcast. But
yes.
I think in this instance, what we are seeing is that people are using these platforms to promote peace, and to raise awareness of what is going on. Unfortunately, in these spaces, you have to also be careful how you use the platforms, because I said this some time ago, that if there's not enough space within a peace process, young people are going to find their space in the conflict. And they will use whatever platform available to start becoming part of the conflict. And we've seen this in, South Africa during the Durban riots.
Yes,
Kenya, that all stemmed from social media, and then Madagascar, and then Tanzania, So young people are starting to see other young people on social media mobilizing themselves and making change, but in such a violent way, instead of using that space to speak about the issues and then using it as a way to promote peace. So I think we have to really be careful how we use those platforms, because they can go either way. And I feel like you can't control it. Once it's out, it just starts moving, which is also, if everyone used it for the alternative of promoting peace and, explaining to everyone what is actually going on with a particular issue within a country, then, that's how you start getting people to support the system. Like, I'm not sure if you're aware of the Women for Change South Africa.
Yes, I'm aware.
This whole week, social media has been about that, and it's been, they've been using it in such a positive way to mobilize other women and make people aware of what's going on, that I feel like that's a really great way to use social media, get yourself on a platform, talk about everything. Now everyone is aware, and now we're all like, okay, this is what's going on in South Africa. Maybe this is what we can do, instead of the opposite, which I really hope young people try and start becoming more peaceful in the way they use social media.
Yeah, I think, you are correct, because like the July unrest in Durban, mobilization was done through Twitter. So instigators were targeting young people using Twitter. So we really need to be very careful and try to mobilize young people to understand, because I feel like if everyone understands like the vision and also the mission of peace building, it will be easy then to actually drive these campaigns online. But if like they don't understand the importance of them being involved and be active participants in peace building mission, then we're going to have a problem. Because I saw that even like in Madagascar, as you are saying that, okay, people were are just using social media. Like many young people, they just fall into a trap of going like to participate in causing a conflict, not like
exactly.
Yes.
Because you don't get the full story on social media. So it's also really important that I feel when you use these platforms to engage other young people, the full story needs to somehow be translated in those 15 seconds or whatever the case may be, or send a link to them, because people are now basing their reaction off that just that flash of like, oh, this is what I stand for. Absolutely, I'm there, I'm supporting it. And I remember, Mpule and I were at a conference, and someone said that they don't mind having young people in peace processes and they love that, but they feel like the youth are not focused. And I was like, it's become very difficult to defend young people, because I'm like, because everyone now is focusing on this, that, and you're not focusing on one cause, like the bigger picture behind the immediate conflict. Like there's more to it than what's happening.
Chelsea, if I may come in, what is the big cause? I mean, like the bigger picture.
This is very context specific. So every country is going to have their own bigger picture of what's really happening. So within that, people really need to be clear, first of all, because whatever South Africa is going through is not going to be the same as what Chad or Sudan is going through, And for instance, like, if you don't understand, like, South Africa really has an issue with unemployment. And it's majority of the young people that are unemployed. And when people are like, yeah, but South Africa is very peaceful, that's a form of negative peace, because there's underlying issues such as unemployment, issues with healthcare, just your overall social living is not of a standard where you feel okay. So that is not peace at all. So in a South African context, I feel like peace is very much tied to economic development for young people, because everyone is trying to get into the economic space just to make a living, a basic living, by the way. And we're finding barriers, and even just to be an entrepreneur is very difficult in this country because of the funding and all that stops us from even accessing funding. You need a job to get funding, but then you're trying to get the funding so you can start a form of employment, so it's
really sad. Like I think even the issue of Operation Dudula, I think it stems from access to economic opportunities and also healthcare services. So that's why there are tensions in South Africa between like Operation Dudula and also foreigners.
Yeah. Exactly. And those things are like the backstory that's starting to create small conflicts. I always tell people in this space, conflicts are not random. They may look random when they are fully blown out, but it's not. If you look back, you'll start seeing the triggers. There's always a trigger of something. There's always small little breadcrumbs that lead to the overall end up of like a conflict happening. And it just takes one person to mobilize people that are frustrated. And that's the thing. Young people on this continent are so frustrated because they don't know what to do, where to go, how to access certain things. And when they try, there's so many regulations, there's so many policies telling you that you can't. And it, like for instance, in West Africa and East Africa, extremist groups find young people that are feeling hopeless. And they're like, you know what, let's give you a purpose. And that's it. People really want a purpose in this life. I haven't met anyone yet that said they don't want a purpose. People want a purpose and they want to feel like there's hope and have dignity to live. And then when you start seeing, other countries making bold moves to make change, which I also understand where young people are coming from, they're like, okay, this is working. If we do this, we're going to get a different result. And that's what people want. People want results now, but it's the deliverance on how you get those results, because unfortunately that becomes the topic now. No one remembers now what was actually happening in Tanzania. We just remember young people now rioting. That's
but
that's what we look like.
How do we then bridge the gap between purpose and results? How do we bridge that gap? Because I feel like as much as we trying to promote peace through other means, but how do we bridge that gap? Let's say we find the purpose for the young people here in Africa, and then we know the results. We have a clear objective, but how do we bridge that gap? How do we do it?
I've seen this in different forms, and I think, and including myself, I feel like I had to also go through this process where firstly, you need to stop seeing somebody else as the leader. Do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like sometimes young people are waiting for someone to come in with the direction and this is how you need to do things, and giving you the authority to move a certain way. But who has more authority than yourself that's living in that context? Do you know what I mean? Like, the communities I go into to do any work, and like, I go in as a co-creator because I don't have any authority over your life experience at all. So firstly, it's really, I think you have to see yourself as a leader and a peace leader at that, because the responsibility of peace is not easy, I feel, because it's a selfless thing. You have to think about it from a very broad perspective, and just how whatever you do or however you direct other people is going to impact that community or that space or that country, So it's just already you need to just start thinking as you are a peace leader, and that comes with its own dynamic. But then after that, bridging the gap is not an individual thing. You have to collaborate with other young people and really involve the older generation. I think there's this issue where the older generation feels like young people just want to come in and bulldoze and just restructure.
Yeah, and take over.
Exactly. I don't even think African culture as a whole does that. We value our older generations. We take care, we involve them in everything. We learn from them. And I feel like the moment young people can relax and calm down and create this environment of intergenerational dialogue, collaboration, that's where you bridge the gap. Because we were actually discussing this within mediation. And from that perspective, I'm a young mediator, but there are senior mediators that know so much. They have knowledge, they have understandings of dynamics that I haven't even picked up yet. And you should be teaching me, That's what it's about. It's not me taking your space. No, we come in together. So I feel like we need to start looking at collaboration, especially with our peers. I don't know. I feel like we've moved into a society where people don't want to work together. I have no idea why. And I wish we would, because young people are so brilliant. Absolutely. And there's fresh ideas. And that's how we start like, oh, that could work. We could implement that. And then we work together. And it doesn't even have to be country specific. It
can be a cross-border
collaboration. Exactly. I feel like that is the best way to start that process of bridging the gap.
Yeah, if I can ask, do you think it's important, or do you think in South Africa or maybe in Southern Africa, many young people have access to peace building workshops, or if you can come in on how do maybe young people access those peace building, who wants to tap into the space of the peace building mission? So how can they actually have access to the workshops and trainings?
So as a network, actually, we're working on looking at all the regions and just seeing what they need specifically, and then also doing capacity building and training for other young people to be part of peace building and, preventive diplomacy, and also just understanding conflict analysis, because that's just key to all the processes after that. So we are looking into doing that. They are like opportunities that come by and all, but unfortunately, this sector has become so political. And I think this is the issue that young people are having. And this is why there isn't enough young people in the space, because it's so political. Because even within SADC, where are all the young people that are being trained as peace builders, mediators? Just SADC alone. I feel like West Africa and East Africa, their regional communities welcome young people a little bit more than SADC. So
yes.
You see? So it's really about, I think, looking at how we can enter those spaces together. So once again, you see, it has to be collaboration, because for the young people that are in these spaces, you should want to continue opening up the spaces. I know it's very difficult, but you have to also be brave enough to bring up these issues. You just have to, unfortunately, because otherwise it's we perpetuating the same cycle, because that young person is going to be in that space, is going to end up as a senior someone one day, and then you haven't opened the door for the rest of the young people,
Exactly. Yes, just a last question, because this week, as I said, when we're starting this episode, that the focus this week is on G20. So why do you think it's important for the G20 this week to also prioritize peace discussions?
The amount of conflicts that have happened in the last 2 years, oh my word, it's quite alarming, because you would think after World War I and II that we would have calmed down and just continued and started peace and economic development, but there are so many conflicts, and international as well, And so I really do hope within a G20 context they talk about this, and not in isolation, because I feel peace, development, and economic development are all on the same page and need to happen simultaneously. Because you cannot, because I've seen this in a post-conflict setting, young people feel very stuck because they just don't know how to enter the economic space. They're not even sure what to do, because the entire life setting has erupted, and everyone is just waiting for something to happen. So, and that's where the issues start coming, because you will find ways to make yourself financially stable, economically stable. And most of the time, they are not in line with any form of development for their country or their community. So it ends up becoming a cycle, and a young guy actually said this to me. He was like, the problem is we haven't seen the benefits of peace. We haven't seen that peace can, change our lives and do good for us. Whereas the opposite, which is conflict, is lucrative, People are making money during conflict. People sell things during conflict. People exploit things in conflict. So you can see the tangible benefits of a country being in a conflict, Whereas when it's in a peace situation, people aren't seeing the benefits there because of the underlying economic and developmental issues that a lot of countries are facing. So I really do hope they bring that to the table at G20, and those countries and those governments look at it from a holistic point and not something that, peace is just associated to people that are going through war and strife. It's not, like South Africans also need peace, regardless of us not having active conflicts. We also need peace.
Absolutely.
Like young women need peace. We need safety. We need jobs. Young men also need the jobs. They also need to feel safe within their context, So I do hope that is on the agenda.
Yeah, I'm also looking forward to the G20 discussions, and I hope really as part of the G20 Social Summit declaration, peace is one of the top discussion, and we'll be also attending as young people because that's how we want our voice to be heard through the declaration. Chelsea, thank you so much for joining us today at Gen AI Africa podcast. We truly appreciate your time, and also we truly appreciate your dedication to peace building efforts.
Thank you so much for having me. It was such a pleasure and always great to talk about these things. Thank you.
Thank you so much. The explorers, you know what to do. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to this episode and also to our channel. Until next time, stay curious. Bye.